Oh, in the build-up to this Border Gavaskar Trophy, much anticipated, big talk around the Indian tour to Australia. Let's look at the home side. I think they start favourites. Most teams these days at home conditions start favourites. We know very well what can happen towards the end, but I think Australia will be the favoured side going ahead. But there's a little bit more. Let's look closely at that Australian side. Now, in recent times, there's been a lot of talk about India's form. Let's look closely at Australia's form. They went to play the Ashes in 2023, finished 2-2, but it rained in Manchester, remember? In that fourth test match, it could so easily have been 3-2 to England. Australia could have lost that. Then the home series, I was there watching the two test matches against Pakistan after they won the first in Perth, and I'll tell you, Australia looked a little iffy in that series. Pakistan had their moments. I just thought Pakistan had forgotten how to win when they were in Australia. Just too many things happening around that side. The fielding was very ordinary. They suddenly started collapsing, but they had Australia in trouble in both test matches. And then, of course, Australia lost to a very hit-and-miss test side in the West Indies. And that series was level 1-1. And the reason I'm bringing that up is, while India's form has been iffy in recent times, Australia have looked very vulnerable too. Now let's go a little more closely into what's happening with the Australian batting, much as we did with the Indian batting. And I thought it might be a very good exercise to compare the form of Australia's key batters in this cycle of the World Test Championship as opposed to what they've been doing in the rest of their career. And let's start with Steve Smith. I love watching Steve Smith, not just for his mannerisms, but for the fact that he just seems in such good positions when he's playing shots, and when he's in control, he's actually a very difficult batter to get out, and I genuinely believe he's one of the greats of the game. But what's been happening in recent times in this World Test Championship cycle? Okay, Steve Smith averaged 35 versus a career average of 57. This is not the Steve Smith that we've known. And I think Australia must heave a big sigh of relief that he's finally agreed to move down the order. Steve Smith up at the order, India wouldn't have minded him at all. Steve Smith at 4 is a completely different proposition, but he's averaging 35 versus 57. Then let's look at someone who's been such a bugbear for India every time. Travis Head, career average 42. This World Test Championship cycle, 29. Marnus Labuschagne, career average 49. This WTC cycle, 29. The only one who's been playing at around par is Usman Khawaja. Then, much like India's issue with an opening partner for Jaiswal, hopefully that will be solved once we are clear about Rohit Sharma, but Australia have that issue too. Who plays alongside Khawaja? It's been such a big debate in Australia, and they've gone with Nathan McSweeney. Looking at McSweeney's numbers, two things stand out. First of all, he's hardly open, if at all, in first-class cricket, moved to South Australia, and since has scored a few hundreds, is enjoying the best part of his career. But in first-class cricket, he only averages 38. So it's not a Bradman coming in, but he's a quality player from all that I've been hearing about Nathan McSweeney. The big loss for them is Cameron Green, because I think he's a genuine, bona fide world-class all-rounder, can bat in the top 4, has got a big 100 at number 4. Even if he's batting at 6, he's a genuine threat, and he's a proper fifth bowler with the ball in Australian conditions. Excellent fourth seamer to have. Now, in his absence, who's going to play that role? Is it going to be Mitch Marsh? You never know with Mitch Marsh and his fitness. You throw the ball to him, he does a groin or a hamstring, and that's sad because he's had that issue right through his career. Then you lose out on a number 6 who could be a game-changing player, especially the top order has done well. So slight issues there for Australia, both with batting form and in the balance to their side. Now that's counterbalanced by the fact that Alex Carey, fine batter keeper, is in the form of his life in Shield cricket. If he can carry that form into the test matches, then it'll make a huge difference because Australia have a pretty stodgy lower order. You can't call that a tail. It's stodgy lower order. Pat Cummins, proper number 8, I think. Mitch Starc is sometimes sent in at number 8. I think Cummins is the better player, but Starc at 9 can be an issue. Then you come down to Hazelwood and Lyon, who've had their moments, who can hang in around if there's a batter with that. Australia's lower order is pretty good. So, slightly iffy top order, pretty decent lower order with the bat. But what about the bowling? And that is where Australia's big strength is. That quartet. Every time you look at an Australian scorecard, it's the same four bowlers who are playing. You go back 2015-16, it's the same four bowlers who are playing. And see what they bring to the table. Pat Cummins, 269 test wickets. Josh Hazlewood, 273 test wickets. Mitch Starc, 358. Nathan Lyon, 530. 1,430 test wickets. That is as good a quartet as any in the history of the game. For Australia to win this series, these four will have to do well. I know you're going to look back and tell me, look what happened at the Border Gavaskar Trophy. India went in with 13, Australia went in with 1,000 plus. And yeah, that doesn't happen every day. That series was one of its kind. This is a big strength for Australia. But if India can keep them in the field for a long time like they did in 18 and 21, and Australia have to look elsewhere, look beyond these four to try and maybe give them a bit of a rest. The only option that strikes you straight away is Scott Boland. He averages a ridiculous 12, 13 or something like that in home conditions, but he's 35. He's not getting younger. Michael Nesser, really fine bowler, but he could be out for the first 3 games. They look at Jai Richardson, is still on his way back. So if India can get these 4 bowlers to be in the field for a very long time, then maybe there's a little bit of an issue with the Australian bowling. But otherwise, wow, those 4 are magnificent. Will Australia give India spicy tracks, you think? I don't know. Sometimes you can start to look at your advantage and almost think too much. Australia have played at their best when they've been on good batting pitches with good bounce. Their bowlers are very good in those conditions. That batters will flower in those conditions too. So, all things considered, I still think the home advantage, a little bit Australia's way. If India's batters can keep Australia's bowlers in the field for a long time, then I think the entire dynamic changes. And to me, if there's one thing that I want to look forward to in the series, it is how long India bat against Australia's bowlers. That'll have a bearing. But yeah, all things considered, I think Australia start ahead.
So thank you for watching and do subscribe to this channel.